Hello everyone, it's Chaz, and check it out. I got a mic stand. Well, that's the good news. The bad news is that now that I'm not holding the mic, you can see that the jack is messed up, so I had to duct tape it. So, oh well. But anyway, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the count functions. That would be count, count A, and count blank. And then we're going to do a couple practice exercises. So let's get into it. All right, so the three count functions we're going to be looking at today are count, count A, and count blank. And let's just go over what they mean real quick. So the count function counts cells that contain numerical values, even if they are the result of a function. So I'll show you what that means. I'm going to make a little table here real quick of test values. I'm going to put 10 values in here. How about just 1, 2, and we know we can just select these two and drag down until we get to 10. And just to make my table look a little nicer, I'm just going to select all of these and do a fill. Let's go like that. And then maybe we can even take the borders, choose all borders. Okay, that looks good. And now I want to show the count in this cell right here. Actually, let me format these too. All right, so let's type the formula. So we're going to do equals count, parentheses, and I want to do a count of all of these cells right here. And since it's going to count numerical values, I should get 10. Now, what do I mean by even if they are the result of a function? Well, let me show you. How about I take this cell right here, and instead of being the number 10, I'm going to go equals sum, and I'm going to do a sum of the remaining numbers. And the sum of that is 45. And if you notice, the count didn't change. It's because this is, even though it's technically a word and parentheses and some letters and a colon, the result of that was still a numerical value. So it counts for the count function. And then count A counts anything. You could think of the A as standing for any or anything or all, because it's going to count cells that contain literally anything, even if they appear blank because of a function. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But for now, let's just type it in. By the way, if you're wondering how I managed to get the equal sign and the formula to show up in column E, remember last video we talked about the text function? I'm just using the text function and formatting it as alpha, formatting it as text. All right, but let's put in the formula. Let's go count A, count anything, select the same range, and I should get 10 again. So how do I get this to not count a cell? Well, I guess I can just make it blank. So I remove 1, so notice that the count goes down because it's no longer a numerical value, and count anything goes down because there's literally nothing in that cell. What if I do type something in there that's not a numerical value, like say pizza? Well, the count function still counts the numerical values, and there are 9 of them still. Even though one of them is a function, there are still 9. This one is not a numerical value because it's just the word pizza. But count A still works because it counts anything, and pizza counts as anything. And then count blank, I'm going to type that in. Now, it's supposed to count cells that are blank and also cells that appear blank. So now I choose these. I don't see any blanks. So yeah, I get 0. So what happens if I get rid of pizza and just make it blank? I deleted the contents of that cell and count blank goes up by 1. If I delete every value, now there are no numerical values. There's nothing in these cells, so count anything returns 0. And count blank shows 10 because there are 10 blank cells in my range. Now, you may have noticed that my count definition says count cells that contain numerical values, even if they are the result of a function, but I put an asterisk there. And if you read the fine print, and I come down here, what is that fine print? Oh, but not the text function. So since the text function literally takes whatever you put into it and formats it as text, even if that function is a number, it won't count for the count function. And I'll show you what I mean just as a test real quick. Right here, I'm just going to go equals text, and we're going to do the number 0, and we're going to format it as a number. And you see it counts as anything. It counts as something that isn't blank, so the blank count went down. But count, which is supposed to count numerical values, did not count the 0 because it's technically not a 0 in this case. It's because of the text function. But on the bright side, after that last video, hopefully you will never, ever need the text function again. I'm only bringing it up because we happened to use this function in the last video, just in case someone decided to test it. I didn't want them to come to me saying, hey, I put the text function in and count didn't work anymore. So just wanted to show it to you. All right, so now I want to show you what I mean when I was talking about cells that appear blank as a result of a function. So I made an if statement here. We're going to go over if statements in a future video, but for now, just know that this cell is going to respond to the test in yellow right here. So what I mean by that is if I type a number in the test cell that's less than 100, it's just going to copy that number into the blue cell. But if I type a number that's greater than 100, it's going to make this cell blank. It's going to display nothing at all. So let's see what happens to each of these functions when I do this. So first of all, the count function, let's put something in here so that a number appears in this cell. We know that the count function counts numerical values even if they are the result of a function. So let's go count this cell, and I should just get a 1. Yeah, and I do. Now what happens if I cause this cell to be blank because of a function? What if I type a number that's bigger than 100 here, so the blue cell goes blank? Well, now it does not contain a numerical value, so the count becomes 0. All right, so I've set the test value back to a number that's less than 100. Let's see what happens to count A, or count anything. It says it counts cells that contain anything, even if they appear blank because of a function. So let's see what happens. So I go equals count A, parentheses. I'm going to select this cell. Right now it does contain a number, so I should see a 1. Yeah, makes sense. Now let's see what happens if I cause this cell to appear blank. Let's go 1, 2, 3. So count A still says 1. It's because count A counts literally anything. If there is anything in that blue cell, no matter what, even if it looks blank, if there is anything in that cell, it's going to count for count A. And in this case, there is something in that cell, technically. There's an if statement. The if statement counts as anything. And then finally, let's switch this back so that the blue cell contains a value now. And let's try count blank. Count blank, parentheses, select the blue cell. And in this case, I see that it's not blank. So yeah, it does say 0 because there aren't any blank cells over here. Now let's see what happens if I make that cell blank, but I do it because of a function. So take this, make it bigger than 100, and now it's considered blank. Even though there is a function in that cell, the function caused the cell to appear blank. So count blank says, yeah, I consider that blank. So this is where some people might be confused because the way we've been explaining count A and count blank is you would think that they were just opposites of each other. Like count blank counts when there's nothing there, and count A does the opposite. If there's anything there, then it counts. But you can see this example, they both count because they're not exactly opposites. Count blank allows cells that just look blank, even though they contain a formula, but count A doesn't care. If there is anything in that cell, if you typed anything into that cell, no matter what it looks like, if you type something in there, then count A will count it. All right, so now let's head over to excelpracticeonline.com, link in the description, and let's work on the count A, and count blank function exercises. Start with exercise 1. All right, and the instructions say the table below shows survey responses. The respondents could use any value for their answers. And it asks how many times do you eat breakfast in a week. I see a bunch of people here and their responses. And David, really? Anyway, first question, how many numerical, with numbers only, responses are in the range? So it's asking for numerical values. So that sounds like the basic count function. Let's go equals count, and let's select this entire range here. Press enter, and there are 4 numerical values. It doesn't count cell B8 because even though it is 3, it is not represented as a numerical value. It's represented as text, the word 3, instead of the number 3. And then it asks how many responses in total are in the range. So they want actual responses. So they want us to count anything. Let's use count A. Equals count A, select the entire range, and there are 7 responses in total. Let's try exercise 2. It says the following table represents a bank statement of Excel Master Company. Column E wait, what? Column E? They mean column C? This website, I swear. Okay, column C shows the total dollar value amount of each of the accounts. And I see some dollar amounts. I see the word error. I see the number 0. So let's see how this works. First question, how many numerical answers appear in column C? So numerical answers, that sounds like the count function, equals count, parentheses. And I guess I could go Control-Shift up like we did in the previous video, but you just got to be careful because there is a blank in row 14, so it's not going to quite work. So instead of Control-Shift up, I'm probably better off going just Shift by itself and the up arrow, and just do that until I reach the top. And I'm not going to choose the heading. I'm going to stop at the first actual value of the table. But that's done. Press Enter. And there are 10 numerical values, and that makes sense because I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 0 counts, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it asks how many non-blank answers appear in column C. So it's asking us to count anything. Let's use count A. Equals count A. This time, let's just click and drag to select everything like that. Press Enter, and there are 12. Makes sense because I remember there were 10 of the numerical values, but then there's going to be 11, 12 when you count the 2 that say error. And yeah, that's it. Finally, exercise 3. Time the instructions just say answer using the following range. I see some cells marked in gray with a border, so they're talking about these cells right here. And it asks how many cells with a number value are in the gray range. So we need number values. That's the count function. Equals count. Select this entire range, the entire gray box. Enter, and there are 2 numerical values, row 5 and row 7. Next, how many empty cells are in the gray range? Okay, so that sounds like count blank. Equals count blank. Use the same range. And there are 4 blank cells in that range on row 3, row 6, row 8, and row 10. So 4 in total. Next, how many non-number cells are in the gray range? Now wait, there are 2 ways to interpret that. Are they asking how many cells contain something that is not a number? Or are they asking literally how many non-number cells, as in cells that just don't have numbers in them no matter what? Because the blank cells don't have numbers in them. So okay, there are 2 ways to answer this. Let's just answer it both ways, just in case. So first, if they are just asking for cells that literally don't contain numbers, so even the blanks, then I guess I need to add the cells that contain anything with the cells that are blank. That'll give me all the cells. And then I just subtract the numerical cells. Okay, let's do that. Equals count A, choose the entire range, close the parentheses. So that counts cells that contain anything. Plus count blank, use the same range again. Now I've got all the blank cells and the cells that contain anything, so the blank and the non-blank. And then I just need to get rid of the numerical values. So minus count and the same range. That'll get rid of the cells that only contain numerical values. And when I press Enter, I get 9, and that makes sense because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cells that don't contain numbers. There's just these 2 that contain numbers. Now, if they actually just wanted to know which cells contain things that aren't numbers, then the blank ones just don't count in that case. So I'm just going to delete that part of the function. So it's just count anything, but then minus count. So count everything but remove the numerical values. And when I do that, this time it's 5 because I have this one, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the final question, how many cells in total are in the range? Well, I remember from the last question that I got 9 when I removed the numerical values, and then there are 2 numerical values. So I should get 11, 9 plus 2. So let's just make sure. This time I want the total number of cells. So that's going to be count A, count anything, but that doesn't count the blank ones. So I need to add the blank ones. Okay, equals count A. Choose this range. That gets me everything except for the blank ones. Now all I have to do is just add the blank ones. Plus count blank, same range, and this time I get 11, just like I thought I would. All right, and that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Next video, we'll go over average as well as min and max. Till then, see you next time. So I'm over here editing this video, and I thought to myself, y'all probably think I'm so smart for doing this and making all these videos. If you had any idea how many times I've gone through an entire section of a video or even an entire video and forgot to press record, I'm not as smart as you think, y'all. I was about to throw my whole computer out the window. I did this entire video and then looked down and saw that I never pressed record. And this isn't even the first time I've done that. Oh, and then this video, okay, you can't see it here, but I have a device here that has all my microphones plugged in and, the guitars and stuff. So I was working on something on guitar the other day, and I left the cable plugged in, and I didn't notice for the entire time that I was filming this video. So the entire video has a humming noise because of the guitar cable sitting on the floor right now. So I almost had to record this video 3 times, but thankfully, I know how to get rid of that, so hopefully you didn't notice it too much in this video. All right, I'm rambling. Let me go back to editing. Thank you for watching.